Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair. And today we've got another Temu guitar. So if you've been watching the channel, the last Temu video I did was about the Temu Greenie. My wife had some leftover credits from Temu. I've never used Temu before. I was browsing and I found the Greenie Les Paul copy and bought it, and we did a review on it. I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that one out. And long story short, that guitar ended up being pretty nice. It had a solid maple top. It played and sounded pretty good, and the woods were actually pretty nice. So a viewer of the show saw that video, requested a link to that store, and found another guitar that they were interested in. They bought it and they sent it to me. So today we're checking out the Temu Buckethead Les Paul. And here it is on the site. So if you're not familiar with the Buckethead Les Paul, it's a signature series for Buckethead. Signature model. It has a baritone scale length, which is like a 27-inch scale length. It's got a bunch of crazy arcade-style stutter switches on it. Ebony fingerboard. Actually, the body is about 10% larger than a normal Les Paul. It's a kind of a really unique Les Paul that is very rare these days, and the prices on these things have skyrocketed. If you want to get a real Gibson Buckethead, expect to pay, you know, anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000, which is insane. And Gibson just does not have a lot of options for baritone guitars either, so which makes these kind of things a little bit more attractive in that way, because you can't find them otherwise. So thank you, Sherelle, for sending this to me. We're going to be doing an unboxing video today and just an overall looking at the guitar, tearing it apart, having a look at all the different parts and pieces, and then plugging it in and trying it and seeing how it sounds. Let's go ahead. And this guitar came in just a little bit more expensive than the Greenie. I'll put the price on the screen here on the site. And I'll put a link in the description to this guitar. This is not sponsored in any way. This is just a viewer of the show sent me this for review because they enjoyed my other review. So, and it appears to come in the same box as the Greenie did. So basically inside this box is just a foam form with the guitar in like a Mylar bag. So let's just go ahead and open it quickly. Here's just a quick look at the packing materials. Again, the form-fitted guitar with a foam top and an adjustment tool. And here's the guitar. Unfortunately, the high E string had snapped when I was taking it out. I don't know if that happened during shipping or before or what. So we're just missing our high E string. Looks like we're gonna have to go ahead and restring this one. But yeah, first impressions, comparing it to the real thing, it looks pretty close. We've got two arcade style switches. They feel very good. They're not sticky. They feel just like an arcade button. So very well done there. This one appears to have the plastic still on it. But yeah, very nice response there. It's got the white pickup bobbins just like on a real Buckethead. It's got the two clear speed knobs, which is correct. I believe this tip should be red, like the real one has a red one. That one's white. It's got a two-pneumatic style bridge with a tailpiece, and the switch is over here instead of, you know, up here like on a normal Les Paul, because that's what is on the Buckethead version. And yeah, they got a starter switch, so I think it's just one tone, one volume, three-way pickup selector, and then two stutter switches. The top is bound with multiply binding. It looks to be an ebony fingerboard. And there's our headstock. So on my last Temu guitar, this is actually a sticker. It actually has the name of the manufacturer on it, Yang Shan Guitars, and this is actually a sticker that covers up the Gibson logo. So we'll get to that in a second. But the first thing I want to do is actually check the scale length. I think there was a bunch of reviews online from other Buckethead guitars that they're not actually baritone. They don't have the proper scale length, and that's, you know, the biggest part of this guitar, that it's a baritone. So let's go ahead and just double check that quickly. All right, yeah, so from the nut to the bridge, 27-inch scale. So that is a baritone scale. And the body does seem a little bit bigger than a normal Les Paul. I think the Buckethead's dimensions are about 10% bigger. But just having an overall look at the guitar, yeah, it looks decent. Like, there's no finish issues. It came with a fairly decent action. I haven't tried to play it yet, so I don't know anything about the frets or any buzzing or anything else like that. But the fit and finish on it seems to be pretty well done. And the frets feel a tiny bit scratchy. I've had Epiphones that were actually a lot worse than this. So they're semi-polished, they're not bad. And the ebony looks decent. There's no markers on this fingerboard, just like on a Buckethead. And let's just have a quick look at the headstock. So it's got a proper headstock truss cover. Some of the other copies have 3 screws, but this is proper with the 2 screws. So you can take this sticker off, and it should have the Gibson logo underneath. Yep. So someone said in the comments of the last video, this is how they get around international shipping with a fake, is they just cover it with a sticker. Again, I don't really condone these copies. It'd be better if they had their own logo. I don't know why they wouldn't just make a guitar that has this logo on it instead of copying Gibson. Although most people these days would be able to easily spot a fake, there are some scenarios where someone could get tricked. Like, let's say if this was hanging in a pawn shop or something and it had a fairly decent price on it, like, I don't know, $3,000, and someone who knows that the Bucketheads are going for crazy amounts of money would buy it thinking it's real. Because, you know, it's somewhat convincing for sure. There's telltale signs you can tell these fakes, and we'll go over that a little bit later. But what I typically do when I find one of these fakes is I brand the back of the headstock so anyone buying in the future will have no doubt that it is a fake. But another easy way to tell almost every time if these are fakes is the serial number on the back. So they're not stamped in like on Gibson. Gibson typically stamps the serial number and then finishes over top. These are always like laser cut into the back, and they're the wrong font. And it's just a really telltale sign that these are fakes. Another easy way to tell if it's a fake is simply take off the truss cover. The fakes don't have the proper truss rod with the nut on the end. They're the dual action truss rod like on a Fender. And I don't think I've ever seen a fake that has the proper truss rod or, you know, a convincing serial number. I'm sure they're out there, but not these cheaper models that you can get from like AliExpress or Temu. Quick look at the back. It's got the proper white plastics. Again, the finish looks pretty decent. It's not all messy or drippy or weird. It looks professionally done. The neck, I can tell you, is massive. It feels like a super rounded C, and it's very, very big. But yeah, it looks quite decent. The only issues I can see is the missing string, obviously, which we're going to fix. And it looks like there's some contamination in the Gibson logo here. Looks like there's a little fleck of something, and that's underneath the finish. But that's all I was able to see just on a first glance here. But let's go ahead and get it on the bench and have a closer look at the specs. And just comparing it to a regular Les Paul, so these hooks are set at the same height on the wall, and you can see that the neck is quite a bit longer since it's a baritone model, and the body is actually bigger. I did do a quick measurement while they were both on the wall here, and the body in every dimension is about 10% bigger than a regular Les Paul. It's a 10% thicker too. So that's pretty cool that they got all the proper dimensions right and the scale length. I didn't expect that on, you know, a super cheap Temu copy. And it's weighing in, despite being, you know, bigger than a normal Les Paul, at very light, 7 pounds, 5 ounces, so just over 7 pounds. The original Bucketheads were chambered bodies, so I'm not sure if this is chambered or if it's just made of cheap wood or what the story is, but we're going to take it apart here and see if we can get a better look. Alright, I haven't even plugged this in yet, but it looks like the pickups are working. So in the bridge position, it's reading a 12.06. So these are likely some sort of higher output ceramic type magnet. And then in the neck position, it's reading 11.64. And let's just test the kill button here. So yeah, that indeed does do the stutter thing with the kill switch. And let's just check that other one here. And they both work. So it appears that all the electronics work. On the original Buckethead that had the 496R in the neck and a 500T, those were ceramic humbuckers. And the readings would probably be pretty close to what these are reading. As far as the tailpiece goes, it's a full weight tailpiece. There's no casting mark on the back. And the bridge is like a pneumatic style bridge. And it's got the retaining wire here. It feels decent quality, not the highest quality bridge I've ever seen, but it doesn't feel like super light or cheap. This is how it's mounted to the body here. We've got our receivers and our screws there. And the top of the screw is slotted, so you can adjust your bridge height with a screwdriver. Alright, let's have a look at the pickups. So the pickups are super nondescript. They don't even have any writing on it. They're just basic, you know, humbucker pickups. Likely ceramic. But here's something super interesting. Alright, so looking at this wood here, I'm going to try to get it in focus as much as possible. You see that wood grain there? That's very similar to mahogany. So that really looks like mahogany to me. But then on the top here, you can see the line where there is indeed a big thick cap over top of the mahogany. And right here you can see a little piece of the wood, and it looks like it's maple for sure. So these guitars also have a very thick maple cap. Now that's pretty interesting on a guitar at this price point, because they could have just, it's a solid color guitar, it's a knockoff. They could have just made it with whatever plywood and then not bothered with a cap, routed it out, and that's it. But they actually took the time to use mahogany for the body, and it looks like they used maple for the maple cap, and they made the construction with a maple cap. So that's a lot of attention to detail for a super cheap, you know, Chinese guitar. Looks like they had a slight issue with the drill putting in the pickup rings. They had to change position, so there's two holes on one side. But I've seen that done before on higher end guitars. And here's a look at our other pickup here. Again, nondescript. There's no markings on it whatsoever. And then there's more grain here. You can see that it is mahogany, or appears to be mahogany. And another look at the other angle of that big thick maple cap that they put on these guitars. Another look at a little piece of chip that came off of the top cap here. So that does appear to be maple. Here's a look at the neck joint in the neck cavity. So it looks like they come right into the cavity. It's not quite a long neck tenon, but it goes right almost to the point a long neck tenon would be. So the routes look nice and clean, and I can't tell if it's chambered yet. There's no evidence really so far, so I'm not really sure how this guitar is so light. But let's open up the back cavity and have a look. And here's a look at our electronics. So yeah, they look like pretty basic electronics. We've got our mini pots here with a little green capacitor there, and this is where our three-way switch is wired. This three-way switch looks decent quality. It's definitely an import, but it's not the worst quality I've ever seen. And there's a look at the back of our kill switch. Again, the kill switch feels great. Super tactile, and it feels like a really good arcade style button. That's very touch sensitive. So that's pretty cool. Right here you can see where they routed all the way down to the maple part of our cap. So yeah, that does definitely look like it's maple. So yeah, and then more of that mahogany wood grain you can see around the edges, even though it's been painted over. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this on camera because it's pretty hard to see, but in the light, if I look in the light on the finish, I can see two distinct lines. So one is here running across, and one is here running across. So this is likely a three-piece mahogany body, and I'm just seeing if I can see any seam lines on the top. It might be a bit of a thicker finish on the top. Yeah, I definitely don't see any lines on the top. So the back is probably a 3-piece mahogany body, and I have no idea how many pieces of maple they use for the top. But you can see in the cavity there's no other chambering. It's basically just routed out there. But I did notice something interesting in the switch cavity here. So normally this cavity is used for the 3-way toggle switch, but they've got another kill switch in there. Again, feels great. And in the screw holes, you can see that the wood is that darker mahogany, so that does line up with the wood grain. So again, I really think it's a mahogany body. But then I noticed in the switch here that there is some chambering. So I can get my whole finger in there. So I'm going to actually I'll put in a probe camera, and we can just see what that chambering looks like. Alright, using the camera here, going in through the switch cavity, and just you can see, yes, it is chambered out. And just moving our way down here. It's a little tricky to feed the camera through there sometimes. So see, the construction looks pretty clean inside, and here's where it opens up into a larger cavity. So you can see there we've got the sides there and the glue. So yeah, this is actually all chambered out. I'm just trying to get it over so I can see the other side, but I think this is as far as I can get, because there's no real way to like turn the camera once it's in there. But I'll see if I can back up a bit and just have a better look at the cavity. So yeah, it is all chambered out, and there seems to be more around the corner there. So yeah, it's likely all chambered out, which is pretty interesting. I didn't expect that on this. So with that probe video, we just confirmed it's chambered as well. So not only did they match the model's wood, you know, and specs, so it's got a chambered mahogany body with a thick maple top, but yeah, it's chambered as well. So they got the scale length right, they got the body materials and woods right, and they got the build process right. It's pretty impressive for this price point, to say the least. I'm just going to check this with a fret rocker to see if there's any high frets anywhere. So there was one or two spots where I did find a slight tiny bit of a rock. Whether that translates to a playing issue once it's strung up, we'll see. If I need to do a fret level on this, I will, and if I don't, I won't. And here's a look at the ebony fingerboard. I hydrated it because it was a little dry, but you can see it's got that really tight green pattern and it's really dark. So it's actually quite a nice piece of ebony. And the neck is bound. It's got black binding on it, no nibs, just like on a Buckethead. But it does have the black binding with the white fret markers on the side, but not on the actual guitar. And the actual fingerboard edges are nice and rolled. Feels really good. There's no sharp points anywhere. And there's actually no tooling marks apparent anywhere on the guitar. So a lot of attention to detail went into this guitar. I'm not sure how they would be selling them at this price point, but I mean, the fretwork is good, and they're rolling the fingerboards, and there's binding and chambering. It's pretty crazy. And I tested this with my rotary tool with some sandpaper, and it stunk like burnt hair. So this is actually a bone nut. And another look at the headstock. So it's actually got a black, like painted on binding around the edge, which is similar to a Buckethead. And it's got the black Gibson silkscreen logo. The logo looks pretty good. The placement seems proper. There's one little spot of white there where they missed the color there. There's just a little bit of sticker residue from there. And then this is our truss cavity, which is a dual action truss rod. And just using the truss tool that was provided in the box, it seems nice and responsive. So far, I'm really impressed with the quality of this guitar, just the materials it's made of, the way it's constructed. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put some new strings on this, and then we'll check the setup. I restrung the guitar. It came really well set up. The one thing I thought was pretty cool was the intonation was actually bang on. So someone took the time to intonate this from the factory, which is great. I did lower the action a little bit after the fact. It was a little higher, so I just moved the bridge down a little bit. That's all I did, and I didn't have to adjust the truss rod. It was set properly, and I just lowered the bridge a tiny bit for preference. So the neck is nice and straight. There's not a lot of relief in it. I can't really show it because I don't have a notch straight edge that's the right scale length. But here in the 3rd fret area, when I use the 3rd fret, you can see the strings resting just nicely against that 1st fret. So that tells us that we've got a really well-cut bone nut here. Again, that's another attention to detail thing. They made sure the nut was nicely cut. And then here at the 12th fret, we can check our action at the low E, which is sitting at just about a 1 millimeter, and at the high E, just under a 1 millimeter. So the low E is just a tiny bit over, and the high E is just a tiny bit under. So very nice low action. I'm just going to run through the whole fingerboard to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down your play error to 25%. So yeah, very nice low action, and there was a tiny bit of buzz in one of the frets here. See if I can find it. So yeah, on my 15th fret on the D string, it's pretty much choking out there. So it means that one of the frets here is a little bit higher than it needs to be, so you could locate that fret and just give it a little bit of a partial fret level using like a fret kisser or something. I don't think a full fret level is needed, but to get that playing perfectly, you would need to do a little bit of fret work there. The rest of the guitar, there was no buzzing or fretting out. And being so light, I was concerned there would be neck dive on this guitar, but no, it stays exactly where it should. It's really well balanced. I also wanted to mention, I don't know whether it's due to its size or that it's chambered, but this guitar is very, very like loud acoustically, super resonant. And it has a lot of sustain. And it's very, very like vibraty. Really feel it in the guitar when you're playing it. Alright, let's get some neck specs. Like I said before, the neck feels really big, but let's just see what it's at here. Width of the nut is like a 1.71 or a 43.35 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that goes up to a 2.08 inches or a 53.05 millimeters. Depth at the 1st fret is a very chunky 0.96 inches or a 24.6 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, the 1.04 inches or 26.52 millimeters. So here's a look at the neck profile. It's just a really rounded C. It does flatten out a little bit by the 12th fret, but it stays pretty rounded. It does feel super chunky, as the measurements would suggest. It feels a lot like my R8, maybe even a little bit bigger. Alright, I'm really impressed by the quality, the craftsmanship, and just the materials this thing is made of so far. Pretty impressive. Alright, let's go ahead and plug this thing in and see how it sounds. I'm plugged into my JCM 2000 DSL 50 amp. I'm using my 412 cab, a Marshall cab with greenback Celestians, miking that up with an SM57, and then I'm using an AT 2020 condenser for the room. I'm just going to go through each of the positions in clean, then a little dirtier, and then we can do some heavier stuff and try to use the buttons, the stutter buttons for stutters and stuff like that. So it actually sounds great, clean, super articulate. The pickups sound really nice. And the last guitar I had was really microphonic, the greeny one, and this one is not at all. Let's go ahead and try it out with a little bit of dirt. All right, final thoughts on the Temu Buckethead. I don't have a bad thing to say about this guitar. It's really, really good. I have no idea how they made it for this cheap. I have no idea how they put so much attention into detail. I have no idea how they made it the right woods and, you know, even manufacture it correctly, being chambered, and intonated it properly, and rolled the fingerboard, and had pretty decent fretwork with a well-cut bone nut. I don't know how they built this for this cheap. And running a repair business for a lot of years, I used to get these knockoffs all the time, and you know, the majority of them were really, really bad. They had bad frets, they were made of cheap woods like plywood, and the pickups were terrible, that kind of a thing. Whoever's building these, this one shop on Temu, Yang Shan, or whatever it is, They're putting some serious attention into detail into these guitars. I just wish they would put out their own brand rather than, you know, making copies of Gibsons. But this guitar is quite impressive. It's super lightweight despite being larger than most Les Paul. It's 7 pounds. It's made of mahogany. It's made of maple. It's got a maple cap. It's chambered as well. It looks very similar to a Buckethead. It's got the multiply binding on the top. No binding on the back. It's got the white cavity covers. It's got the dual arcade type kill switches, which feel great. These are super high quality switches. They're very, very precise and responsive. The hardware was decent. I think they got the knobs wrong when I was looking at the other pictures. I think these are supposed to be white instead of clear. And I think this is supposed to be a red tip. But yeah, it's even got a, you know, a metal output jack. And the neck is huge, but I like big necks. Like, this feels very comfortable to me. This feels like my R8. So it's not necessarily a wider neck. It's on the wider side, like it's a 1.71, but it's a really big, thick, full C. So if you like those kind of necks, you'll like this guitar. I really thought this guitar was going to be neck heavy because of the neck and because of how light it was, but it's really well balanced. It sits on a strap just perfectly. I didn't really talk about the tuners in the video, but they're just the, you know, the knockoff Grover tuners. They're not real Grovers, but they say Grover, but they held tune really well. Like I said, the nut was bone and it was really well cut. This guitar stayed in tune well. And the pickups sounded great. Again, I have no way to tell what kind of pickups they are. They are literally blank. There's nothing written on them. But they do sound like ceramic high output pickups. And they sounded great clean. They sounded great with dirt. Just really raunchy, but you can clean them up really easily. This is like a very nice, versatile guitar. And the fit and finish was great. There was no like weird paint or finish stuff happening. The frets could have been polished a little bit better, but they're not that gritty. Like, I've had Epiphones that were way, way worse. The fretboard edges are nice and rolled. It feels super comfortable. And there was that one little dead fret on the fingerboard. But I mean, if you're gonna spend $300 on a Buckethead and get something like this is a great like modding platform. If you want to swap the pickups, you can. I think they're great. I wouldn't touch them. They sound really, really good. And who knows, I might have just got a perfect shining example for whatever reason with almost zero issues. Your results may vary, but you have to expect, you know, spending this kind of money on a guitar that there might be a few issues. So if you're going to be buying one of these things, you have to go into it with the mindset that you might need to make a few repairs and a few alterations to make it, you know, to your preference. But yeah, like I said, I had to do nothing to this guitar. It was well set up. It was intonated. The viewer of the show who sent this to me actually just redirected it right to my address. So it came right from Temu like this. Yeah, I was just really blown away with how good this guitar is. I'll leave a link to that shop in the description. It's the same shop that I got the Greenie from and this guitar. So for whatever reason, that shop is really putting some details in. I don't know if all the guitars will be like this, but I've had two that were pretty good. The Greenie was quite good, but this one's like pretty great. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning into Beckler Guitars and Repair. Thank you to Sherelle for sending me this guitar. It was unexpectedly great. And if anyone else wants to contact me to work out a deal to send me a guitar for a review on a video, just let me know. We can probably work something out. But thanks again for watching until the end, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.